glass, forever free. Table contents, plan for lessons. Born a slave, escape, writing and speaking, land of the free. Glossary. Abolition, the act of doing away with or ending something, the act of making slavery illegal. Amendment, a change of addition to a document or law. Autobiography, a true story about a person's life, written by that person. Citizenship, the state of being an official member of a country. Civil rights, legal, social, and economic rights that guarantee freedom and equality for all citizens. Editorials, articles in a newspaper or magazine that express the opinion of the publisher. Electrifying, causing great excitement or enthusiasm. Inspire, to encourage a person to act. Literacy, the ability to read and write. Plan for lessons. 8-year-old Frederick Douglass took a loaf of bread from the kitchen and slipped out the back door to run errands. Frederick was a slave, but he knew he had more to eat than a slave. But he knew he had more to eat than some boys in his neighborhood. So he traded them bread for something he wanted even more, an education. For slaves in the 1820, learning how to read and write against the law, Frederick has a trick through. He showed off by writing a few letters in the dirt. The poor white boys would write other letters, and before long, Frederick knew the alphabet. Soon he started trading food for lessons in reading and writing. Frederick would give up his lunch every day to learn. Born a slave, Frederick was born from a slave in February of 1817 or 1818. He never knew the date of his birth, and though he knew his father was white, he never knew who he was. His mother was Harriet Bailey, but Frederick was raised by his grandmother, Betsy Bailey. When he was 8 years old, Frederick was sent to work for the old family in Baltimore, Maryland. When Frederick first arrived, Mrs. Allwood helped teach him the alphabet. Then her husband stopped her. An educated slave would just want to be free, he said. So Frederick read the newspaper in secret to practice his skills. For some time, Frederick struggled to understand the word abolition. Whenever a slave ran away or did something a slaveholder didn't like, abolition was blamed. Frederick tried looking up the word in the dictionary, but it just said the act of abolishing. What was being abolished? In 1831, Frederick read in the newspaper about the abolition movement and the people trying to end slavery. Now he understood some white people wanted to abolish slavery too. Frederick also learned that blacks were free in some states, and he began dreaming of escape. Once you learn to read, Douglas wrote later in life, you will be forever free. Escape. For years, Frederick had lived the easiest life of slave in the city. At 15, he was sent to work on a farm as a field hand for Edward Covey, a man known as a slave breaker. Covey beat slaves, including Frederick. For 6 months, Frederick took Covey's beating until one day Frederick fought back. The fight lasted for nearly 2 hours. Once Covey let him go, he never tried to beat him again. Still, Frederick continued to dream about freedom. Frederick worked on his literary too. He even joined a debate club where he met Anna Murray, a free black woman. Together, Anna and Frederick planned his escape. Dressed in a sailor uniform and carrying a free man's passport, Frederick traveled by train to New York. The escape took a little less than 24 hours. But as Frederick later wrote, I lived more in one day than in a year of my slave life. Speaking to audiences years later, Frederick would say, I appeared before you this evening as a thief and a robber. I stole this head, these limbs, this body from my master and ran off with them. Escaping didn't mean that a slave like Frederick was truly free. Slaves who made it to a free state could live as if they were free. Yet, they could still be seized and taken back to a slave state. Frederick sent for Anna to join him, and they were married in 1838. Since Frederick could still be caught and forced back into slavery, the newlyweds changed their name to Douglas. They settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and had 5 children together. A railroad for runways. A secret group of people organized to help runaway slaves in the 8,000. This network came to be called the Underground Railroad. Places with food, clothing, and shelter were called safe houses or stations because many runaways travel on foot. People helping the slaves, known as conductors or station masters, tried to provide a station every 50 miles. Frederick Douglass stayed in safe houses when he first escaped. He himself later became a station master in Rochester, New York, helping some slaves escape to Canada. Safe House, Ripley, Ohio. Slaveholders agreed that slaves were smart enough to be free. Each time Douglass spoke at anticipatory meetings, he proved them wrong. Yet he spoke so well that some whites refused to believe he had ever been a slave. To prove he had been a slave, Douglass wrote an autobiography, narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, was published in 1845. Stritchley said that the book, like Douglass, was fake. No slave could write so well. They agreed. Yet the book was a huge success, and they could convince many people that a slave could have a great mind. At the same time, the book included details that could lead to Douglass' arrest. In order to avoid capture, Douglass left the country on 2 years speaking power. An electrifying speaker, Douglass was a star in England. Fans there raced in 711 to buy Douglass freedom. When Douglass returned to the United States in 1848, he founded a newspaper. He also wrote thousands of speeches and editorials calling for an end to slavery. I oppose slavery in this country, wrote Douglass, because it is to kill it. Slavery is the one of those monsters of darkness to whom the light of truth is stayed. One of his most famous speeches was "What to the slave is the 4th of July." In it, Douglass surprised his audience by asking questions about what independence they meant for slaves and former slaves. What have I or those I